Hello, everyone. What an incredible honor to be here to talk about a topic that is very near and dear to my heart, children, and particularly children in crisis, and how we might use design to reimagine early childhood as we know it. I thought it might be helpful to give you some context to where I'm coming into this work from and where I hope to go. I came to Wellesley in 2015 as a first-generation international student and fell completely and madly in love with anthropology. The fascinating study of what people do and what people say and why they do and say as they do. Somewhere down the line, I graduated and wanted some sun in my body and went all the way westward to California. And at Stanford, I discovered another fascinating space, which was learning sciences, which was the study of how people learn. And in the combination of anthropology and learning sciences and design, I got intensely curious. At Stanford, I led a study where I looked at 200 families across 8 countries, trying to understand how games and play can be used to build some of the most foundational skills in children. So the presentation today, I've divided into 2 parts. The first, I want to give you some context into this world of early childhood development and why what happens in our childhood determines our life as adults. And then I want to ground some of this research in a real-life case study around a phenomenal project that we ran in Sri Lanka. So what does the research tell us? In the developing world, 1 in every 3 children will not reach their fullest developmental potential, both cognitive and social-emotional learning. It becomes worse when a child experiences what we call an adverse childhood experience. This includes things like childhood abuse, malnourishment, death of a family, even in the most recent times, COVID. And to give you some context, people who experience around 3 to 4 ACEs or adverse childhood experiences is 4 times more likely to experience depression as an adult, is 3.5 times more likely to experience kidney failure. So that is all to say, what happens in your childhood matters. You might ask me, well, Kavi, there's so much time between when you're a child and when you're an adult to build these skills. Why are you so worried? Neuroscience tells us a different story. 90% of a human being's brain development is done and dusted by the age of 5. That's scary, but that also means there is this incredible opportunity during the early years to build some of these foundational skills. So you might ask me, well, there's research, we know what to do, why is the data so bad? Well, we're not using the data. We use AI and data for everything from who we swipe right on to our Spotify playlist to our most optimal route to work, but we don't use it when it comes to making decisions during the most critical early years, which means a lot of the decisions we make as parents or parents-to-be or educators is mostly ad hoc. You might say, well, let's do more research. Well, the research in this space is very robust, but the problem is it's hidden behind academic jargon that even I can't read, paywalls, and is rarely translated in ways that teachers and educators and parents can understand. So this was a problem that I became obsessed with solving. So when I left Stanford with the support of UNICEF, I founded an organization called Tilli. And what we do is something very simple. We bring together prolific researchers in this space with phenomenal designers to see how we can use 3 things: data about the way children learn, the power of behavioral sciences, and play, to see how we can build these foundational skills in children, and we target 8. Tilli is now 3 years old, and we had a full circle moment because we've had now 2 Albright interns, one who's in the audience today, shout out to Zora, who has helped us tremendously with this work over the summer. And now you might ask me, well, how does this work? Can you show us how does this work? How does this get into the hands of children? Let me take you back 2 years into the May of 2021. My home country of Sri Lanka experienced one of the worst humanitarian crises of our time. Spiking inflation, a political crisis where we ousted a president, malnourishment, and around 68% of families lost most or all of their income. And the worst hit, as with any crisis, were children. Mental health outcomes were terrible. Malnourishment meant that children weren't able to go to school anymore. And among many other issues, there was a need for an effort to take children out of this crisis. This is when our partners at UNICEF and Save the Children, two of the largest INGOs in the country, came together for a humanitarian response. So they were focusing on nutrition and food assistance. And we were brought into the picture and given the question of how can we provide psychosocial support to children so that we can help them deal with this toxic stress situation that they're in. So what we did was we brought together who we know, researchers and designers, and gave them this question: how might we translate this incredible research we know about how children learn and how children build skills to become very fun, playful, affordable experiences? And this is what we designed. A beautiful, if I say so myself, a learning kit accompanied by a digital tool that went into the hands of almost 4,000 children at the time and now 8,000. And this included 2 modules. The first was called Feelings and Emotions. And the focus there was building these 2 skills of self-awareness and management so that we were giving children the vocabulary to talk about what they were feeling, and then also practical strategies to manage some of those big feelings. The second was about bodies and boundaries. These were fun games and conversations that parents were having with children as they were talking about topics like body safety, consent, and boundaries. And this was a direct response to some of the increasing rates of domestic violence we were noticing in the midst of this crisis. So what did we learn? Development interventions are such that there's this problem called the last mile problem, which means that the research is great, the policy looks good on paper, but when that policy gets translated into solutions that get into the hands of communities, there is a last mile issue. Often the design is poor. So here's 4 things we learned. First, many times we design solutions without understanding the environments in which these solutions will be enacted in. For us, we call this a learning environment. So our kits were used in environments like the one you see behind me. This is a childcare center in Sri Lanka, where the activities are facilitated by a child protection officer. These are drop-in centers, which means that today you will get 10 children, tomorrow you might get 40. Then we have the same activity now being enacted in a family setting where a father gets a kit alongside his food packet and he needs to facilitate the session. Or it could happen in a classroom. Some of these classrooms have no electricity. Some of them have a projector. Some of them have 10 kids. Some of them have 40. So how do we design solutions that could contract and expand based on the environment? Second, how do we design with and for communities and culture? We soon realized that similar to the research in this space, a lot of the content, the activities and curriculum were designed in North America and Europe for North American kids using English as a frame of reference. So we had to go back to the drawing board, drawing from our stories, our vernacular, our signs, to design something that used our culture and our community as a frame of reference. Thirdly, the concept of a low flow, high ceiling. This is something that doesn't only apply to learning, but any solution we design. This concept was familiarized by Seymour Papert at the MIT Media Lab. And the concept is very simple. It says that any solution needs to have a very low flow to start. So for us, the low flow was when the kit was given to a classroom, the teachers would get the children to sit in a circle and read a story. That's it. But the ceiling has to be high, which means that when children build these skills, when teachers become familiar, they're able to make these environments their own and tools their own. Finally, as with life, all tools are constant prototypes. It's never perfect. Our learners are changing. The content, environments, tools they're using are changing. So should the solutions, so should the learning tools. Finally, recently our partners released an efficacy study to understand, well, we used Tilli, what did Tilli do? The research found out that 4 out of 5 parents who used Tilli were able to better manage and articulate their own emotions. So it's not just children this is impacting, but we're also training parents in an indirect way. And with children, 9 out of 10 children were able to manage their anger better and develop better coping mechanisms. I want to end this presentation with a call to action to you, as we're in the midst of one of the worst humanitarian crises that has affected our children in modern history. Almost 70 plus children in Israel have been killed or abducted. 10,000 Palestinian children have been killed in the past 100 days. My ask from you is, what will your act of justice be? Thank you.